everybody coming. We are here to discuss city business, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is exactly 6 o'clock, and if y'all wouldn't mind, please check your phones and make sure that they are on off or silent so that we can ensure everybody can be heard. With that, I'd like to start this evening with the invocation, and Byron Sanford, would you please give that for us?
Lord, we do thank you for all the rich blessings that we've been able to see in our community. We ask your blessings and your favor upon our families. We thank you for the many blessings you give to us. We thank you in advance for those you will bring our direction. May we be wise and prudent in the decisions we need to make. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Next, the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. The first up on our agenda is the Visitor and Citizens Forum. I did receive, I believe, 4 of them. As a reminder, I'm going to go ahead and call each person up as these were received. And there is a 3-minute time limit. So first up is Juanita Simmons. Would you please state your name when you get up there and your address? And then on deck is Brandy Christenberry. Thanks.
My name is Juanita Simmons, and I live at 21910 Twin Creeks Road, which is right down the Black Cemetery. I've got about 3 acres in the city limits, so I'm a concerned citizen. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I attended the city council meeting here, and I witnessed something that really bothered me. I got to see the city at work, and I got to see some of the individuals that it was affecting. I worked for a big oil company, and I was trained on free enterprise, restraint of trade, a lot of other things that are really important to all of us that believe in our democracy. And last council meeting that I was attended, I saw some things that made me wonder if that was going on here at the front. That was 2 weeks ago, and I'd like to think that the city council has listened to the people, and then maybe they will not be so biased in what they're trying to do, and that they will be concerned and represent all of us here, every single one of us. If you shop in this town, if you drive through this town, if you live in it, then you need to care about what goes on. I'm not mad at you. I guess I'm disappointed because I saw some things that scared me. I think ethics, moral compass, trade laws, free enterprise, political fairness, and representing of every citizen of the city was temporarily abandoned. I want to stop the waste and the misdirection of the city dollars. I want to implement ways that encourage new business to this city. Fill up those empty offices down the road. Bring in businesses that fill them up, that brings more business and pride to the city. I think we should clean up and revitalize parts of the city that do not promote safety and a healthy city. We need to listen to our citizens, all of them. Whether they share your opinion or not, you should represent all of us. I think that the city councilmen and women have valuable input from each other, but listen to them. I think we should stop the use of radical platforms to harm other individuals. I think if you surround yourself with like-minded people that think just like you do, then you're not representing the rest of us. Now, here's my pet peeve. Golf carts. I drive a golf cart. I had trouble crossing from across 105 to go to the Berkshire Brothers, the bank. And I talked to Councilwoman Davis about that, showed her where I think that can be improved because there have been deaths in this area, in this county, due to golf carts trying to cross unsafe. And so that is my main pet peeve. And last, I want to thank your city for passing the 20% homestead exemption. I think that was a great step in the right direction.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Next up is Brandy, and then Bill Clevenger on deck.
My name is Brandy Christenberry. My address is 18913 Bethel. I'm just here speaking on the things that I am capable of speaking on. I am a member of the community, and although I'm not a resident, technically of Montgomery, my business and all the things that are involved with us are impacted by what happens here. So I want to be here to offer support to all the locals and the community around here that I want to be a part of and that I am a part of and that we're invested in. But I wanted to offer a general reminder to everybody, not just you guys, but to all of us, that this is our hometown. It's our hometown. Like, while we are making these decisions to think about what we want to do and these ordinances and things that we're all about to talk about and pass, I think it's real easy to forget about the fact that this is our hometown. That no matter how far away my kids or your kids decide to fly away, this space, Montgomery, is always going to be a place where they come back to, and it will always bring them nostalgia and feelings that no other place on this earth can give them. It's a big deal. We're creating memories here with our family and doing things in this town and city that will be the one thing we cherish, when we're towards the end of all that. So I wanted to remind us that I wanted a reminder for all of us and myself included, that people are pouring into our state right now. We're getting people every day out at the farm visiting that are coming or fleeing their states from these states that have such a government overreach that they can no longer operate their businesses and their homes. They're not creating happy, positive memories in their space anymore. These towns have been ruined by politicians and politicking and politics and ugliness and corruption and name-calling and political drama and system bending and even some good old-fashioned stealing and threats. We have to be better than that. We have to be better than that. Because everybody's looking for an example right now, and this town's capable of that. We're spending time looking at other cities and what they're doing, but we have the opportunity to be leaders ourselves, small town leaders. This is what people are craving. They're coming to Montgomery in Texas because they're craving a city council that's got this many people in it. What a blessing, y'all. What an incredible blessing that y'all have shown up for us today to fight for small businesses in the community itself. And I don't know about all the politicking and the ugliness and the gross stuff. That's not my forte. But I think small business and community and like talking to each other and supporting each other, even when the competition is the competition, and even when they figure out other ways to do things, I think we should be supportive of that.
Thank you, Ms. Christenberry.
Thank you for allowing me.
Next up, Bill Clevenger, and on deck is Jenny Stewart.
Good evening. Thank you to the City Council and Mayor for giving me the time to speak this evening. I prepared some notes this time. I just wanted to, again, bring attention to the amount of support from the citizens of just not the City of Montgomery, but all around our community. It's been extremely impressive and truly breathtaking, honestly. The City of Montgomery depends on the revenue generated not just by the good people who reside within our city limits, but everyone in the immediate surrounding neighborhoods. We couldn't be sufficient. When we say Montgomery, we're all Montgomery. All the little neighborhoods, they all come in and they support each and every one of our local businesses, whether they're big box or whether they're locally owned. And we also, as a community, try to work together to attract outside dollars for people to come in. We need to work better at creating and developing a place as a community for people who want to come in and enjoy what we already know. These two local businesses, owned by local residents, located at 404 Caroline Street, not just bring jobs and revenue to the city, they bring charm, and more importantly, above all else, They bring people who want to stroll around our community, potential shoppers and potential home buyers. As a city and as a community, I believe there are so many more important issues we face together than a coffee and ice cream business located in the heart of our town, Montgomery, Texas. I stress the words "our town" because, folks, it is our town. I know in the agenda, deep buried, there's a letter from Mr. Tram. Thank you, Mr. Tram, for your words. I implore everybody to read deep into that. It's page 111, but it stresses to the fact that an ice cream business and a coffee business is high on the agenda. And I reference back to the fact that I believe there's so many more important issues facing us as an entire community. And it isn't just us. It's these liberties. What's coming? Who's there? And so, in closing, I just say, hey, God bless us all. I know we need it, and God bless our community.
Ms. Stewart?
Well, this is the first, because I don't know if I've ever followed a thank you with another thank you. Because you're going to get a thank you from me again, right, from Bill. Good evening. My name is Jenny Stewart. I'd like to thank Mike Mulroy and the others in the town who started the process of trying to fix the origins of the sewage overflow on our property. I'm looking forward to seeing the completion of the remediation that prevents this pollution, and I thank you very much. I'd also like to get on record the broken and damaged equipment at Cedar Ray Park. I went with some little ones the other day to the park. And the park has been a huge investment of time and money with the city. It took a lot to get that there. The surrounding neighbors and people that live in the community and our community directly spend a lot of time in it, all ages. There are broken climbing ladder rings. There's many, many places on equipment where the safety rubber is worn off and there's very sharp edges exposed, and it's really dangerous for little ones. And I don't know if that's ever been tended to since it was originally put in. So I'd also like to suggest the addition of a splash pad. I think it would be greatly utilized, a great addition to the park. It doesn't have to be huge. The water sewer's there. I think it would be a very easy thing to implement into the park. And I don't think it would be terribly expensive. I've looked at a little bit of research on it, and I could probably get you some people to come talk to you about it. The other thing is we spend a lot of money on things that I think are not necessary. My biggest beef right now, and a lot of others right now, is the wooden or concrete goats and the goat mascot costume that's being pushed on the town. Personally, I think mascots are for schools, and I'd like to see money spent on something like that, going towards fixing or improving the park for the children and residents of the town. That's all.
The consent agenda. Item number 1 on your agenda, matters related to the approval of July 13th, 2021 regular meeting minutes.
Do we need to also approve 7/21's meeting minutes, or are we just approving 7/13?
On the agenda is just July 13th.
Don't we need to approve all previous ones? I know it's on the agenda.
on the
I'm just
agenda.
asking
Yeah.
Richard, I think, and he's lost.
You really can only approve what's on the agenda.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the consent agenda as presented. Next item of business on your agenda, consideration of possible action. Consideration of possible action regarding adoption of the following proclamation recognizing a truly remarkable athlete and city resident, Paisley Bell, on her outstanding accomplishments in gymnastics. I'd like to read that proclamation to you this evening. And I think it's pretty phenomenal that Paisley works out at the gym with Simone Biles. And so hopefully maybe in the next 4 years we'll see you there at the Olympics. So in this proclamation, whereas Paisley Bell began competing in 2014 in her first season of competitive gymnastics, Paisley made it to the District 5 championships where she finished 4th on bars and 5th all around. And whereas during the 2015-2016 season, Paisley competed at the Houston National Invitational where she won the bars, beam, floor, and all-around titles. The next fall season, Paisley finished up her season at the Texas South State Championships where she brought home gold medals on bars and beam and earned a silver medal in all-around. And whereas during the 2017 season, Paisley kicked off her season at the Boots and Bling District 5 qualifier and finished 4th place on bars. Whereas in February 2018 at the Biles Invitational, Paisley finished 2nd on floor and 3rd on beam. Paisley finished her compulsory season in the fall of 2018 and finished as the Texas State Beam Champion, as well as finishing 2nd place in all-around and 3rd place on bars. And whereas during the 2020 season, Paisley kicked off her season at the Alamo Classic, where she finished 2nd on bars and 3rd on floor and all-around. Paisley improved her all-around score at each meet throughout the season and had her best showing at the Biles International Invitational in February, winning the bars, floor, and all-around titles. Whereas during the 2021 season, Paisley won the following: Texas State All-Around Champion, #1 in Texas; Texas State Bar Champion, #1 in Texas; Region 3 Beam Champion, #1 out of 7 states; Region 3 All-Around Silver Medalist, #2 out of 7 states; and Western Bronze Medalist on floor, #3 out of 24 states. Whereas currently, Paisley is at level 9 out of 10 gymnast, and she trains 34 hours a week, 6 days a week at the World Champion Center, home of Simone Biles. Paisley attends homeschool where she is a grade ahead and expects to graduate in 2027. Now therefore, be it proclaimed that the mayor and members of the city council of the city of Montgomery do recognize a truly remarkable athlete and resident of the city of Montgomery, Paisley Bell, and congratulate her on her outstanding accomplishments in gymnastics. Passed, approved, and adopted this day, 27th of July, 2021.
Sarah, you want me to do a picture? Okay. Mom's getting it. Get out of the picture.
Next item on the agenda is item number 3. Consideration and possible action regarding the final plat for Towns Creek's Crossing, Section 1, as submitted by Lefebvre Development, Inc.
Okay, this subdivision is located on the northwest corner of Lone Star Parkway and Buffalo Springs Drive. Section 1 includes 102 lots, 114 reserves. The Planning and Zoning Commission approved the final plat at their special meeting held July 20th, 2021. The city engineer's memo is attached. If council has questions, we have the city engineer here. We have Catherine Booth. We also have Mr. Lefebvre, who's the engineer. Catherine, comments?
The only comments that I have is this is a routine final plat. You review the preliminary plat and the construction plans as well as planning and zoning. We offer no objections to approving the final plat. What is included in here is also the variance for the buffer zone that you approved a few weeks ago. So that has been included, recorded, and that's shown properly in the final plat as well.
The only question I had was that open space, the drainage reserve, that's always going to be open space, right? There's no chance that could ever be retail or anything like that there?
That's correct.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And there's no liability back to the city for several of these being within the 100-year floodplain?
There is not. And so what the developer is also doing right now is they're working on a letter of map revision to modify the FEMA maps. All the development that the developer has gone in and done on the channel, the FEMA maps are still from before all of that. So once the maps are revised, those properties will come out of the floodplain.
I'm like, 500-year floodplain we thought we would never see, and we've seen it twice in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm just like,
Well, and I've had the pleasure of walking this, and the topography's changing constantly.
Yeah.
So that was yes. Go ahead,
I
Tom.
was going to say on that, so the FEMA maps, they're just drawn on line. Everything is built way above elevation, so effectively the maps are just not, they're outdated. So we're in the process of updating, so everything is above ground.
No questions, anyone else? Okay, all right, well then I move to approve the final plat for Town Creek Crossing Section 1 as presented.
Second. I'm not sure if that was Carol or TJ.
She can do it.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that we accept the final plat for Town Creek Crossing, Section 1, as submitted. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. It is now open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the final plat for Town Creek Crossing, Section 1, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the final plat for Town Creek Crossing, Section 1. Number 4 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding adoption of a resolution approving the Montgomery County Emergency Communication District annual budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2021.
Each year, the Montgomery County Emergency Communication District, they must present its budget in proposed form to the governing bodies of its participating jurisdictions. The MCECD, it must receive approval from a majority of those entities. In order for that budget to be approved, if an entity within that jurisdiction does not take action, it's assumed to be approved for their functions. We do have here tonight Chip Van Steenberg from the NCPCB to present and discuss the budget. He's also here for the following agenda.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Chip Van Steenberg. I'm the Executive Director of the Montgomery County Emergency Communication District. We are a countywide independent unit of local government formed by the voters of Montgomery County in 1985. We are responsible for coordinating 911 service between the telephone companies and the responding agencies. There are 4 agencies that operate emergency communication centers or 911 call centers here in the county. We support all 4 of those. We provide them with the network that they operate on, the equipment that they use, as well as the coordination with the telephone companies to make sure that when a citizen dials 911, that call is routed to the correct emergency call center. Those call centers are operated by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, the Conroe Police Department, the Montgomery County Hospital District, and the Montgomery County, and the Woodlands Fire Department. So we provide the services and work closely with all 4 of those entities. Our budget is around just under $5 million. We are funded by 911 fees that are collected over different kinds of telephone service, whether that's a traditional wireline service, a voice over internet protocol, or our cell phone fees, wireless fees, which makes up about 70% of our revenue, 75% of our revenue, and about 85% of the calls. We use that money primarily to establish those connections, those circuits, and connection costs, as well as financially support the 2 primary emergency call centers in Montgomery County. So when a 911 call is made, in Montgomery County, it's going to land at 1 or 2 agencies, either the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office or the Conroe Police Department. And they will handle that call if it's law enforcement. If you need emergency services, fire rescue services, they're going to transfer that call to what we call secondary call center. So we support those primary call centers by providing them funding for some of their personnel so that call can be answered quickly and processed efficiently. We have 4 categories of expenditures. Overall, we estimate revenue is going to go up this year by 3.6%. Estimated expenditures will increase over last year's budget by 3.1%. Our largest category of expenditures, as I mentioned, is those, what we call our cost of service. That includes those payments to the sheriff's office and the Conroe PD for personnel to answer the 911 calls, as well as services like text messaging, which we've added recently. So you can text message 911, voice translation service for the call takers, so they can get, if somebody calls up that does not speak English, they have access to a service that will provide them translation for a variety of languages, for dozens and dozens of languages, and that's used on a regular basis, as well as an emergency alerting service. So we operate that as well. Our second category of expenditures are personnel-related expenditures. Those are anticipated to increase this year by 1.3%. And then our final category of expenditures, smallest, is general administrative costs. That is expected a 14% increase this year, 14.7%, because we plan to do some long-range planning so that we can look at the future of 911 in Montgomery County. We have recently purchased property. The district has purchased property, actually 105, close to Montgomery here, 11 acres, for a future 911 site. The site right now, which is within the sheriff's complex in Conroe, is a site that we have already outgrown, and we're looking for a plan for the future. So we have that site already purchased. We're going to work on some development-related costs this year, as well as some planning costs, so that we can plan to eventually build out that site over the next 3 to 5 years. I'll be happy to answer any questions about our budget, about 911 in general, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you today.
I had 2 questions. One you've already answered. Thank you for the capital improvement, because I was like, why are we holding on to 5.1 million for capital improvements? What's the goal? So thank you for answering that.
Right.
My other one is with the trends that you're showing here for landlines on a serious decline on page 46 in my packet. Why do you show on 49 an increase in the fiscal budget for landlines for 2022? Year over year, you're showing a decline on one and an incline on the other. So it seems backwards somewhere.
The budget that you're seeing now is the estimated revenues this year versus estimated last year. We actually underestimated landline revenues. Even though they're falling, we took a really conservative approach and estimated a very low number, and they're starting to hold steady, specifically consolidated, more than the AT&T section. Any questions?
Interesting trend.
Yes.
Then I'll make a motion that we approve this agenda item as presented.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that we accept this agenda item as presented. This motion is debatable, amendable, or requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the agenda item as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the consent, the item as presented. Number 5 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding nomination of an appointee to the Montgomery County Emergency Communication District Board of Directors.
There are 2 positions on the board of directors that represent cities. For the term that is preparing to expire September 30th, 2021, it is currently held by Paul Bergadamo of the City of Conroe. Mr. Bergadamo has indicated he's willing to continue to serve in that position. The city could choose to nominate Mr. Bergadamo. They could choose to nominate another candidate. At this time, we're not aware of anyone who's specifically seeking that. Do you have any information?
I can confirm that nobody has indicated to me that they're interested or looking, as you're probably aware. Richard Graham holds the other position that is confirmed by the city, so you are well represented on it.
I would assume that their terms run in alternating years, so that way Richards wouldn't expire until next year.
That's correct.
Okay.
What type of motion do we need on this? Do we need a motion on this?
It's either no action or nomination of the name for that.
Okay, so move to approve the existing nomination as presented?
Well, you actually have to have a name.
Right.
Oh,
Whether you want to.
say it right. All right. I move to nominate Paul, say it again for me? Bergadamo, City of Conroe, in the position of Montgomery County Emergency Communication District.
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the nomination of Paul Vergadamo from the city of Conroe for the Montgomery County Emergency Communications District. This motion is debatable, amendable, and requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting Paul Vergadamo from the city of Conroe as our Montgomery County Emergency Communication District Board of Directors, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept Mr. Vergadamo as the nominee for the Montgomery County Emergency Communication District for the Board of Directors. Item number 6 on your agenda. Consideration of possible action, a renewal proposal for the contract with Waste Management of Texas, Inc. for solid waste collection in the city.
Waste Management has provided trash collection services to the city for a number of years. The current contract was signed in 2015 and was extended by amendment in 2018 for an additional 3 years. This contract is set to expire July 31st. Waste Management has recently submitted to the city a renewal proposal for review and consideration. Current fees versus the newer proposed fees are presented on the chart that was with the agenda item. In basic, there's a 4% increase for residential carts, a 45% decrease for those wanting a second cart, a 29% increase, approximately $6 for the first commercial cart, and a drop from $14.48 to $8 or 45% decrease for a second commercial cart. So staff recommends a minor increase in the city's garbage rates that would cover the cost over the course of the whole proposal. A separate agenda item to address that should council approve this item. We do have Terry from Waste Management here if the city has any questions for her. City staff believes we've had a strong but over the years improving relationship with Waste Management. Certainly they will acknowledge that there's been some issues, especially those of a staffing nature during the pandemic. I can say during the time I've been here with the city, things have improved from the beginning of that time. And if council has any questions, take those for Dave McCorkey, the Assistant Administrator, who worked with the contract, as well as myself, and we'll try to take it.
Terry, I want to say thank you. You've been great to work with, and you've always taken care of us and appreciate it. And I know sometimes we feel like there's been some buzz about, feel like we've kind of getting forgotten. Sometimes during COVID, there was trash left over for the day before, but you were highly responsive, so thank you for that. I know you're also struggling with headcount and labor. And so
drivers are, if anybody has a CDL that wants to apply, I can give you a card. And we'd love you to apply. I do this everywhere I go.
well, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was going to say the same thing you just said. Terry, it was fantastic the way you guys responded last year. It was the same thing. It was weird. They definitely were. But every time we did have an issue, you guys always jumped right on it, and you in particular. So I want to say thank you to that as well. The statement for Richard, again, I realize that we have a great relationship with Waste Management. This is maybe for my overall knowledge. When we have contracts and things like these coming up, is it typical that we just, I don't want to say just stick with the same one we've got, but do we ever put it out there for other companies to bid on type thing?
It varies a lot. I know I've spoken a lot about going out for proposals on things, and if that's something council wants, we can certainly do that. One thing I've seen with trash services, there's a limited number of providers, and I've seen a number of times where, and I hate to say this in front of Terry, where people have changed companies and then live to regret that.
Yeah.
The community, not where I live currently, but still plugged into the community where I lived before, they made that decision away from Waste Management, and they, after 6-7 months, they canceled that contract and went on another one because they saved money, but it created major headaches for the staff within the community. That said, if the council wants me to take that on, we can advertise and take that out. But with a limited number of providers in the trash world, yeah.
Well, that would be something, if there were some major issues that we have with these bins, there haven't been any that I'm aware of. So the feedback's been really good from our phone
I would
calls.
say this, the service level was where I thought was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I would have said something different related to that question.
I do have a request, though.
Yes, ma'am.
We are a growing community, and we've got 4 new neighborhoods coming. And with that, y'all are so kind to give us those 2 big trash bins for our bulk trash day. Could we have another one?
Plus one?
Yeah, or 2, actually. That would be helpful because they have, as most recently, they've been filled up even before noon. And folks have got to come back the next day, and we want to make sure that everybody
With the
is.
city approving a 3-year agreement, I don't think there'll be a problem at all increasing that number to 4.
Okay, and then secondly, when we order a trash can, it can take up to a week. Is there any way we can expedite that, again, with all the growth and the new houses coming up? Certainly
We're
when.
trying, we have a contractor that is working with us, and they've done an amazing job. They're having the same problem we are with manpower, so they are working really hard trying to hire more staff so that we can come in within about 3 to 4 days and get that in there. So they've made some progress recently with some help from Waste Management, so we are going to continue helping them to strive to get that also.
So the current contract we're looking at is 3 years with a 2-year extension. I guess the previous one was a 3-year with a 3-year extension?
Yes, well, so we all went to bid in 15 and 18, and then we've got the extension for that. So,
Were we extended due to COVID, or it was a 3-3 before?
3.
Okay, so now we're just doing 3-2. So we could possibly lock the rates in for the full 5 years, assuming that we just do an extension, correct?
Right, we get an annual price increase that is part of keeping our margins so that we can maintain this level of service for you. And we do it just with CPI and fuel, and I believe, and I may be talking out, but I believe your fuel has a trigger, and we have compressed natural gas trucks. Even our non-automated trucks are all compressed natural gas, so we have a really good, inexpensive fuel there because it's just so efficient.
And so what I was looking at in the contract, it's triggered at $4 a gallon, which diesel's still very well underneath $4 a gallon. So,
we're fine.
but we're still seeing an increase on the trash.
4.1, and that is for consumer price index for trash and garbage.
But we're seeing a huge reduction on second cans. But most of
Because I'll be honest with you, we have found through COVID, more people need them.
right.
And we felt like in 19 and 20, I was instructed to lower the cost of the second cart to help families.
And I appreciate that. I do have 2 cans. I just don't know that there's a lot of people in our town that have a second can right now. So I imagine there'll be lots of new requests for a second can now that it's cheaper, considerably cheaper. My other concern is that you have our businesses paying a huge increase.
And the reason why is the volume coming into your businesses now. We are not just picking up a cart, we are picking up yards of debris next to the cart. And we need to be compensated for everything that we're picking up. We're going to work with some of the businesses to get them extra carts. That's why we lowered the rates even to them. They got a lower rate for extra carts so that they can have enough carts. And we're also going to try to help them work with their neighbors and see if, when they have large amounts of shipments coming in, if maybe they pay the neighbor who has an 8-yarder, they don't have room for an 8-yarder at their location. Maybe they work together as co-businesses and see if they can get that debris off the streets instead of piled up in front of their business.
So when you say 8-yarder, though, you're talking about a dumpster,
Yes, ma'am.
not the actual trash cans, which is what we're talking about here, which is the 96.
Right, so the 96-gallon cart holds a half a yard.
Right.
If they break the boxes down, they still can't. Some of the inventory, when they get an 18-wheeler, and there's no way that box. But normal weeks, they're fine, right? So they don't need it. But so that's why we've worked with other cities in your situation where some of your businesses just don't have the parking lot space to work with some of their neighboring businesses to just have a lot of communication. Maybe they can help them out during times when they get a big load in, to keep it off your streets.
Right. And it's written into the contract, though, too, that you're allowed 2 extra items every single week, aside from your 4 cans is the limit, not 2. We only have prices for 2. So are the 3rd and the 4th cart also $8 a cart? Okay, so businesses could have up to 4 carts each.
Right.
So I just want to make sure we're clear. They're all going to be $8.
Well, the first one is the regular price, and the others are the $8. Again, we lowered that rate to be more of and assistance to the residents and the businesses instead of the community.
And if they're putting out more than the 2 designated items every single week, is there a written-in, I didn't see one, is there a written-in clause of a fine or
We don't.
excessive use?
That's not our job, but
I didn't
we
think
would
so.
start leaving it. Taking a picture and leaving it.
Gotcha.
Because we need them to manage, we want to help them manage the waste with more parts, but we also want them to help manage to realize that when they have a large volume of demand, which we're excited about the growth, and that's why we did what we could to help them with. But to help encourage them, I'll be more than happy to come and talk to any of the business owners to say, let me go meet your neighbors. I'll make the communication for you and see if I can make you be friends. It's like, know your neighbors, right? We need businesses to do the same thing.
And what's to prevent someone in a residential subdivision from getting 4 neighbors together and one pays the higher fee and the other 3 pay $8 and they all have 1 cart?
All residents receive the first cart at that price, at the first price.
Right.
So you couldn't have the other neighbors, if they had a cart in their home, the first price is the price. They would have to have a second cart, and the city manages that, and we manage it, but that address has 2 carts.
Gotcha. And then I also noticed in there's constitutes a special collection of household hazardous waste
Yes,
that they have to call in. Do we have a liaison for that? Is that
It's called At Your Door. We've had this program in the city for several years. It's very, very successful. And there's a 1-800 number and a website that we have done a mailer to the residents, and I would recommend and work with the city staff to do another mailer to all the residents, especially the new ones, to remind them that you need to get rid of paint, motor oil, antifreeze, sharps. I'm a diabetic, so I take shots, and I can work with your staff, with Haley, who's fabulous to work with. She has all the information to help the residents. They get rid of TV, a computer, pool chemicals. There's a big long list.
Right. I read it. I just thought it was a great opportunity to present that so people knew about it more, because I'm not sure that I fully knew about it. And I think that if we were monthly collecting those things or making these connections, that we could minimize what we're putting in those roll-offs every quarter.
Well, these items are special, what we call special waste for a home. This is something that, keeping it out of the landfills and keeping them, it's just like the cart that caught fire. I have to know all the details, but it's possible that might have been averted. And paint. Have you ever noticed that sometimes on streets there's a line of pink paint going down the middle of them? Well, that's when somebody put a liquid gallon of paint in their garbage and we compacted it. And even though our trucks are sealed, there's still little cracks in them just because we're hard on them. And you'll have a little pink line of paint. Paint in the cart is a federal offense, basically. It's supposed to be dried out. So this gives a great source for your residents. Not all communities have this program, and I'm a big advocate of it because they come to your house and pick it up. You don't have to put it in your nice car or even your old beat-up truck. You can put it at your front door and we'll come and pick it up safely.
I think that brings up a good point. We should put that back in the water bill. We've had it before, but I think it's a great reminder.
We sure can help out with that.
So Terry, the new business owner that I talked to, she doesn't want that second can. I can call you at this cell phone, you all can come pick it up?
Yes, you can let Haley know. She'll send it to me in an email and we can make it happen.
Okay.
But honestly, the price break is at the second can.
She
I'm
really doesn't want that can.
As long as she can use only one can and it's
Yeah.
fine, then she's on fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry.
No, I love your questions. They're great.
Well, I can make a motion, we approve 3-year renewal proposal, 2-year extension from Waste Management Texas.
Second.
It's been seconded that we accept the 3-year renewal and 3-year extension for the proposal with Waste Management of Texas. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It is open for discussion.
Everybody gets a second can. That's what I need to know.
Can you use that in your please?
Sorry. Correct. All those in favor of accepting the proposal for the 3-year renewal and 3-year extension with Waste Management, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the renewal proposal with Waste Management for 3 years renewing and 3-year extension.
Thank you very much. I look forward to continuing to work with y'all.
Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. Item number 7 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding the adoption of the following ordinance setting rates for solid waste collection service in the city. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Montgomery, Texas, amending the rates to be charged for solid waste collection service inside the City of Montgomery, Texas, providing for a penalty for failure to pay accounts, providing conditions upon which service will be resumed, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing a savings clause, providing a Texas Open Meetings Act clause, and providing an effective date following publication.
Okay, with the approval of the waste management contract, this is what, this change here, if approved by council, would amend the fees to follow the contract. It also includes a 2.5% increase to cover the cost of the city's time in administering the work. As was said before, to change the number of cans or when residents get the cans, city staff is in communication with waste management. It covers time for that. When there's issues, maybe a house gets missed, maybe we're running behind schedule, there's communications between residents and city, it covers that time. That's what the administrative fee is meant for. Last year, although we had the minor increase in waste management, city did not take action to raise that and absorb that through the administrative fee, because the pandemic year was probably not the time to consider raising the fees to the residents. So that's what that is there. One comment on the late fee is that trash runs through the utility bill. So it's primarily water and sewer, but trash is included there. People who do not pay by a certain time, a late fee is assessed. This is, the late fee that's referenced here is the late fee that is seen on that bill. There's not a late fee on that bill, and then another late fee attached. I just wanted to say that for clarity. So, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to try to take those.
So I have concerns about the 2.5% over and above what Waste Management is charging us. We haven't done it in the past, and we've been just fine. So where are we? I mean, I hear you say personnel, but every single time, because I'm on the end of the run. Terry knows that she has my phone number and I have hers, and the minute my can is missed, I'm on the phone with her, and I have to do that myself. The city has never done that for me. I have her email address, her phone number, and I've always been responsible to do it myself, even before I was on city council. So I'm just trying to understand, why are we charging our citizens 2.5% more? And I know we're talking about pennies again, but, and then the other thing I
luxury
read.
of contacting her too, so they've got to go through the other channels. I mean, it's true.
And just for one way to make it, it's, we have charged that in the past.
Not last year. So in the past, it's always been 2.5% above
We
that?
previously had 2.5% added on to cover the city's administrative costs, so administering the items related. Last year, from the previous year and the previous contract, 2.5% on. Last year, we did not raise the rates charged to citizens and just let that increase absorb into the 2.5%. Because, as I said before, the pandemic was probably the wrong time to talk about increasing the rates to the residents.
How much time did we spend last year on the phone with Waste Management? How much money does that equate to in the last 12 months?
Some weeks there may be no communication, some weeks there may be, a couple hours. Anytime a new resident moves in, there's communication back and forth. When residents move out, unless there's an immediate person in and out, there's communication back and forth because those cans are brought out to the residents, they're removed from the residents who are moving out unless there's basically an immediate move-in. So anytime new homes are constructed, new residents, there's definitely a new can that goes there.
How much time do we spend that? How do we track it? How do we know if someone says, great, to justify it, I just want to see how much time we invested last year that we didn't raise rates for? Where can I see that report?
Year
before last, maybe.
We don't specifically track.
No.
So we're proposing rating it 2.5%, but we're not sure how much time we spent on it.
I can tell you a decent amount of time.
Well, no,
I can't tell you how much that time is.
Yeah.
And this is at the discretion of council.
Yeah, we got you.
Again, it benefits everybody to get a second car.
Did
Yeah.
I will hardly agree with that. I no longer have a large family at home, but when we need it, a second car is a valuable item to have.
Yeah.
And at $8, I mean,
you can't afford
that's
that.
the best thing you can make. It's cheaper than buying a barrel to burn in.
Or how do you help? Yeah,
Sorry.
sure. We got you. Okay. Any other questions about it?
He answered all mine.
Did I read somewhere too that this was to cover damage to roadways?
That was adding on items that you can cover with the administrative cost comes. It's like anytime trucks drive on roads, anything that's heavy does definitely more damage to say.
So you know where I'm going here, right? My soapbox about Huffman Street, like we're damaging that street every single time and we aren't repairing it. And it's listed on the city website as a city street.
I'm sorry, where is it listed on the website of the city street?
I'll send you the link.
You can let me know later.
I'll send you the link, yeah. So.
I don't know. This comes down to, like I said, we got away without doing it last year. If I can't see it, for me personally, if I can't see how much time that we invested in it last year or the year before to put kind of a monetary amount to it, I'd rather not do it, personally.
Do you know how long we've had the 2.5% administrative fee? Carol, was it here when you were here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's always been?
Yes, ma'am.
What are your thoughts? What do you think?
When I was here, I know they spent a lot of time that people don't realize they spend talking to Waste Management about different things on the garbage. And so it's well worth it to have it in there to help pay for that. And Terry's always been available
She's a rock star.
to answer any of those questions.
You're literally talking about 50 cents a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Does no one want to make a motion of anything? I'm going to vote no personally, so if someone else wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the ordinance setting rates for solid waste collection service in the city.
Okay.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt the ordinance for setting rates for solid waste collection services. This motion is debatable, amendable, or requires majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of adopting the ordinance setting rates for solid waste collection services, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the ordinance for the rates of solid waste collection services in the city. Item number 8 on your agenda, consideration of possible action regarding a variance request to section 78-96B of the city code requiring all parking lots to be paved with asphalt or concrete as submitted by Cornerstone Community Church for 14740 Liberty Street.
Cornerstone Community Church was recently purchased the China Chapel property at 14740 Liberty Street and plans to use the facility as their new church home. The previous occupant was a nonprofit organization who utilized the facility for several years as a counseling center. The parking lot has crushed gravel and crushed concrete, and they used that as a number of years for the parking lot, and it does not appear to have ever been a paved surface. It includes for your review are site photos and a survey of the property showing the church plans to position their parking lot, which is mostly where the existing parking lot is currently located. The property has generally mild cross slopes, but none that would present a unique situation, that is different than is otherwise in the city, and that what they have had to deal with elsewhere. In conversations with the applicant, city staff, it feels like the primary reason for the request is the economic request. For reference, the criteria for granting a variance of the subdivision ordinance is included below, written below the section 7828 variances. When a subdivider or developer can show that the provision of this chapter would cause unnecessary hardship and strictly adhere to, or where because of some condition or failures at the site or the nature of development, compliance with this chapter is not inconsistent with or is required by good engineering and planning practices. And if, in the opinion of City Council, Planning and Zoning Commission, and the City Engineer, a departure from this chapter may be made by destroying the intent of this chapter, the City Council may authorize variance. Planning and Zoning Commission We did recommend approval of this request, and the report is attached. The city engineer does not recommend approval of variance. Their report is attached. The city engineer is present tonight. The council has questions for the city engineer. Because economic hardship is not justified as a criteria for granting the variance, city staff does not find the reason within the variance to approve the request, so we would recommend the denial based on the ordinance.
Is the representative from this church here?
No, they did not come tonight.
Okay. According to the Montgomery County Appraisal District, this is still owned by the Montgomery County United, which is Arnett Easley's group. And I would have liked to, Arnett, if you're watching, because you usually are, I would have liked to have heard from you tonight, but I have to read between the lines here. So, Ms. Vu, do you have any comments on?
So as Rich mentioned, included in your package, you have our memo. Based on an engineering standpoint, the ordinance allows for a variance if what is based in the ordinance would cause the track to be undeveloped or would place undue hardship on the development of the track. From an engineering standpoint, we do not see a hardship on this track or paving the parking lot. The track would be able to be developed, so we don't recommend the variance from our perspective. We also included historical aerial imagery from the site just to give you some more information about what it has been, what it is currently, and then what is being requested in the variance application.
And do we know that they actually bought it, or they're leasing it, or my gut says they're leasing this? I remember Arnett talking about leasing this property out, not selling it, so.
I do not know.
He did sell it.
He did sell it, okay. Thank you for clarifying, that's what I was.
Appraisal district does sometimes.
I know, they're delayed, yeah. That was my biggest question is, was it actually sold, or?
Would that be grandfathered in since there was a church for 150-something years before it became a counseling center?
So the reason we're seeing it as a development, as redevelopment, is because the survey that is included on page 110 of your packet, the area that has been drawn in as the proposed gravel parking lot is an expansion of what is existing. And so that is interpreted to be a development, redevelopment of the property.
And so right now they're asking to expand it with gravel and then repave it after 3 years, is that what I read?
Yeah.
Or up to 3 years?
Well, they only get a variance for 3 years, so they have to come back to renew a variance or to pave it, if I understand.
That's correct.
Okay.
My opinion is that we deny this, and I will tell you my clear reason why is that this piece of property is on the 7th grade history project, and come December, we're going to send 600 or 700 kids there again, over and over again, to go take a picture by the historical plaque, and I worry about what that looks like for them to trip over stuff. Do you have a different view, TJ? What's your thoughts?
100-something years, highway, not only been taking pictures, they didn't
Grass and
trip,
nothing.
so, you know, I'm of the opinion, I like a little gravel around the city.
Could we consider like
I don't like everything to be paved. In that case, then we got to pave the plant place, we got to pave turn land, we got to pave the feed store, we got ranches, we got a lot of other places
That's true. I
that
didn't
have to
consider that.
be paved. And in the country, if you go to China or Brent, you're gonna run across some gravel somewhere. Nothing wrong with a few rocks out there. Kids taking pictures, they're gonna pick up a rock. Maybe they break the church window, but that's part of the kids. You know, that's just part of it. So I probably would like to see it gravel for a while.
I agree with you because too, with concrete, the additional water, and Town Creek is already an issue, it's the water. And if we could find a porous surface, like other places have, that would absorb the water versus it going down in Town Creek and.
So something that council has approved in the past is the true grid system, which is an engineered grid system. It's filled with gravel, but it allows for more structure and it allows for a path for drainage. So that is something that you have approved in the past, but with the way I understand it would be a separate request to
Is that what Hodgepodge has?
Yes.
That's awful. I'm just gonna be frank. It holds more water than you can imagine, and you can't get out of your car without stepping in a mud hole.
Maybe the way that they put it in or how they graded it out.
Very well could be. It's on the hill. I love Hodgepodge.
But on the hill, you're not gonna hold a lot of water on the hill because it's gonna drain down.
That's right.
And if you look at the historical value of this, and you go back in your history, town was founded down by the creek. Then they had a school there close to where this church is, old black school. Then across the street they had a school. So all of this still is historical, but for some reason it's not in the historical district. I still can't understand that.
For me, I'm okay with the gravel, honestly, because TJ, you made a great point.
Yeah.
So you tell someone they better come back and change from gravel after 107 years, they better come back and tell everyone else, hey, guess what?
But,
You know, it's,
well, they say it was founded in 1865, and the same year of Mount Pleasant, but you know, it could have been, but you know, it's a lot of historical value in that piece of property there.
whoever can use their money to help the community.
The money don't seem to roll down here for some reason, but.
Is the standard variance 3 years, or we have the leisure to make it a year or 2 years, or do you know?
3 years is what they requested.
I think council has the ability to request it for a shorter period if you want. If council was of a mind to grant this, I would recommend you consider something shorter, like 1 year, and then let us evaluate it.
And I believe the bill that was here is in Fern land, so it's all still tied together. Fern land not paid.
No.
A bill come out of this town that was way back, it's in Fern land. So,
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept this variance request with one amendment, that it is for 1 year, not 3 years, and that we revisit this in a year. At least that will give them time to get on their feet and figure some stuff out.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the variance request, but with an amendment for 1 year instead of 3 years, and we revisit it in the 1 year mark. This motion is debatable, and then we'll require a majority vote. It's open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the variance request with the 1 year, not a 3 year time frame, and that we revisit it at the 1 year mark, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept the variance request with the amendment of 1 year instead of 3 year, and revisit it in 1 year. Next item on your agenda is the departmental report. Item number 9, City Administrator's Report for June 2021.
I'll wait just a second.
Okay.
Good point, some of the parking lots that I didn't consider with gravel. I thought, and they told me that they were looking for someone to lease it. I had talked to that recently with Scrooge's, so I thought it was leased, and I thought it was
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I have a number of items here. You have my written report. I'll hit a few high points and then move on to the City Administrator's Development Report. One of the items that higher profiles that we obviously worked on during the last couple of weeks, city staff, city attorney worked on some changes to the vendor ordinance around definitions. We're also looking at potentially, whether we, door-to-door vendors, working with the police department, whether we might want to look at background checks being required for people to do door-to-door vending. We're not talking about nonprofit groups like Girl Scouts selling cookies. We're talking about professionals who are selling things door-to-door and so on. Also in line with the topic of food trucks, we're looking at a number of other city ordinances where cities have tackled these issues and looking to them. I know the Director of Development Plan today was looking at a presentation related to what has been done at Tomball. So we're trying to cast a wide net before we bring anything back. What I would like to ask you, City Council, for you all to contact me independently, whether you want to do it by voice, come sit with me, or by email. We can't discuss things outside of the meeting. If there are forum issues, we'll text up me back, but you can communicate directly to me. What are your top priorities? What are the things that you're most interested in? And I've had some communication with some of you before. Continue that, so we can make sure we're bringing you the items that we're looking for.
Hey, Richard, on that one, we had a couple of lists for, you and I talked last week about this, and I speak with another council member the other day. What are your thoughts on a public hearing to discuss the ordinances as far as the food trucks go? Because one thing that I think that we can all agree on is that we've got a lot of passion around that topic, and why not have all of us as a city kind of work together in a working session and hash out what the ordinance look like going forward? I mean, we just erase the whole ordinance as it is and start over. I don't know. But instead of doing it individually talking to you, why don't we have a meeting like this where we can all talk and come up with the ordinance that way? I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean,
Here,
all right.
I'll just say, let me finish this sentence before you go.
Okay.
Okay. Because I'm not sure public hearing is the proper venue. There are, because public hearings are meant for certain items. I would defer to the attorney on what you call it.
Okay.
Certainly, we from the staff are committed to working within the process. Whether you call it a workshop, whether it's just like we are today, parts of regular open meetings. I envision this as a give and take process where staff makes recommendations to council. We receive public input along the way. Public input is not necessarily only limited to 3 minutes standing up here. Members of the public can do what some have done in the past, ask to speak to city staff and make an appointment and get with us for a little more time. We can't spend 5 hours with per person, but we can certainly spend 20, 30 minutes or something or more if productive, speaking with individuals who have specific points. It's something we've done before, and it's something we can continue to do too. Isn't that staff who has pertinent issues? I know for instance, Ms. Stewart had a couple questions. Talked to her on Friday on the phone. Went through a number of things there. We're here. We don't just work with the council. We work with the public as well.
Was that the sentence you wanted me to wait for?
I'm sorry?
Was that the sentence you wanted me to wait for?
Yeah, well, where I said I didn't know that public hearing was the proper thing, I didn't want you to think that I was saying no to an open process.
Yeah.
It could be called something different. Public hearings, are for a specific purpose.
Well, the reason why I asked,
Part of the open meeting.
well, the reason why I asked that is because whenever I asked you about a week ago, you said, well, if I talk to you, then I've got to talk to another council member, the next thing we're going to have a quorum. So why not just have it out in the open and just do it that way anyway? If that's what, it seems like several of us want to talk to you about it and be involved with it instead of just giving it and saying bring it back. So why not just
Conversation it's making sure we do it the right way. And if this is, when we bring something back, it'll come back to council, in a meeting. I think that's the appropriate time for council to consider, do we want to do this here? Do we want to do this a different way? And that is for council to set up. And that is the way to do it.
So Alan, can we?
Well, you can certainly have workshops and public meetings to discuss, any variety of topics, including this one. Obviously.
I think that'd be kind of neat. Also,
For
workshop or something.
For instance, Wednesday last week, we had a special meeting on one item.
Yeah.
I was just saying, I don't think public hearing is the right thing to call it. I think there is a right way to do it.
So
But if we do a workshop, don't we fall under open meetings once we have a quorum?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I would assume that after 2 weeks ago council meeting, that all of us would be interested in being present to wage information and to be informed as the people who get to make the decision. So I really do want a public workshop, however we need to word it, so.
And certainly we can do that. I would say first, let us finish the investigation we're doing to have something to have at the workshop, to have you a finished product. Or rather, not a finished product so much as a finished draft.
I will say it is generally helpful to have a draft on the table that, the public can see and comment on. So, people can say, we like this part, we don't like this part, and you can get that kind of feedback, as opposed to just people commenting abstractly.
Yeah, it's a starting point. You build on it, starting through or whatever.
And last week I got food truck ordinances from Lano and Bastrop, so I did forward you those. I had sent them to Sarah, but I made sure to send you those so you had those to kind of weigh in as additional information.
And we're David Corgadale as the director of planning development is the one centralizing that, and currently working with the attorneys. And I've lost count of the universities that
There's a lot.
he has that he's using to compare and try to pick from. And there's not another place I would say that is exactly like Montgomery, but there's places that have done this well. Places that probably haven't done it so well, maybe we can learn a few lessons from them too.
Well, and the great thing with your firm, Mr. Petroff, is the fact that y'all have written quite a few of these ordinances. And Caleb, that's where we got the foundation for the last ordinance when it was up. So we can steal from what they've plagiarized and what they've done before that they've seen as options.
So what do we,
Look at a number of cities as well, yeah.
and what do we need today from council to direct you for a workshop? Because the last time we did a discussion like this, 2 weeks later, you told me it was an official vote. So what do we need to do today so that we lock in a workshop?
I think what we're hearing here is, we have the direction from council generally about a workshop. Let us finish the draft, and then we will work on scheduling that.
And
That would work though? That's what I'm saying. If we all come here now and do it together,
Well, what I'm saying now is, if you get a date for a calendar,
Yeah.
and we don't have the draft ready, well, you're not ready to have a workshop. Let us finish the draft, and then we'll discuss with council, setting a date that council can attend, and we can post it to the public for something like that.
And then from that point, let me suggest that we take our time, that we advertise in terms of getting input, so everybody can make sure to be at those meetings, and we don't try to rush it from this point where people can't be there either.
Yes.
so when it's on an agenda item like this, where instead of just us discussing, I mean, they can speak and say,
Here,
Right.
like public comments, it's meant to be limited, to keep a meeting on target.
Yeah.
A workshop is a less formal, more give-and-take environment. It's meant to be more general. That's why a workshop is more the appropriate form.
okay.
It could be a one-topic council meeting where you're not having to worry about also getting to various requests and contracts and reports. You can spend the time just on that topic.
So you guys are going to bring something back with the expectation that we're going to look at it on the agenda
Yeah.
and discuss openly.
Right, and we would like to get we would like to get the input from council, because, honestly, we show it to y'all, and you go, well, no, here, and here, okay. Then we can improve the draft, and then we talk about the public input.
So here's the thing, you guys want ideas from us within the next few days. So we need your ideas from you, to us, to them, for the next couple of days, and that's what they'll use to put together this next draft, right? There we go.
But the reality is, you're going to put together a draft and represent it as a motion to approve, and we're still going to have to come back and take back on a workshop.
No,
No, workshop first.
I just want to make sure you hear me, though. We want a workshop.
That's what I think we're all on board with that.
Yeah.
That's what we can discuss.
But there's no formal motion, and there is no vote, so that is not a specific directive.
So you can do that when you accept the departmental reports, you can put that in there in your motion.
Okay. That's what I needed to know.
That's great, yep. That's where it needs to go. So if you want to, if we're going to take these individually or independently, whichever way, I think we can do, like, you can give all the reports, and then at the end, we can make that motion and add that in there.
It's also worth mentioning that I didn't see anywhere in this report that you did permit Texas Twist and Shakes, and you told me that they're permitted, they're just not open yet, so I just wanted everyone to know that they were permitted, and so was Walder Love, and so they have a 6-month permit, so we're working on a 6-month window.
Right.
And then what ends up happening is they get a grandfather in of this 6 months to operate without the ordinance. And when they come for a renewal of their permit, they will then be subject to whatever the ordinances are that we agree on together and pass. So just so everyone is clear, they are under 6 months to operate.
Thank you, Julie.
When did they happen?
What after 6 months?
After 6 months, you have to reapply for your permit in 6 months anyway.
After 6 months.
By that time, you got to change it.
Which is why you need to make sure that in the next few days that you email what you want to see in the.
That's what we're.
Yeah.
This is why I'm a little concerned over the draft. I think the council should be more involved in the draft, because how is the city selected?
We can, that's what we said, we were going to give comments back, we're going to hear from everybody their comments, and then we're also going to provide comments, and then they can come up with just a foundation. And if you don't see, if I don't see what I think, or if Judy didn't see, we can certainly bring it up in that workshop forum and say, hey, I wanted blue shoes to be a part of the ordinance, okay, then, and I don't see it in here. Can we please put it in, or can we put that up for a topic of discussion? I think that, so everybody should bring their list, certainly for the workshop.
Sure, absolutely,
yeah.
I get that, and I applaud the whole thing. workshop, because I do believe it's definitely true to the community topic. But I was just, like Julia mentioned, that she had submitted 2 cities. We have a list of cities. Those cities weren't included. And I'm just wondering how...
Well, let me just say, Mr. Clevenger, you are more than welcome to also come and talk to us about that. And when you're talking the list of cities that I wrote, I also wrote, I listed 4 cities and I said, and others.
Okay.
As I said earlier to the council, I lost count of the number of cities that Mr. Corkerdale was looking at. I mean, I literally don't know what the number is because he's informed me as he's gotten more and more this week.
It's an ordinance or public information, so we can pull 900 different ordinances for food trucks, and at the end of the day, it's a spaghetti bowl that we still have to filter out for what's best for Montgomery.
Just go through, it'd be great to go through, pull some and highlight what you like, and then take those.
And if I can continue your metaphor there, my metaphor is let staff go through the spaghetti bowl, put it in something that we think is a format or close to it, get council's review, and then let us make whatever changes there, and then put it out for the full public review, and go through that part of the process. Yeah.
Well, part of the council review is going to be the workshop, I think, is what we're talking about. You guys put together, the review is not going to be us, and then we'll tell them. You put together, and then we will go through it in that workshop, and then give that back to you, and then you can, that's what we're talking about. That's what Julie's concern is. There's no skipping the public on it, that's all we're saying. Just go straight from them to us to give you their ideas and our ideas as well. And then once you have all this put together, we're all going to meet to discuss what that might look like in a workshop.
I got a little lost in there.
We're not presenting something to vote on. They're not until they have a chance to.
The workshop would be, presumably in this room, where we're all back here, but it's designed to be just a discussion on this, proposed ordinance at that time, and go through it section by section, take comments, go, you know what, I really don't like that part of it, but I think this would be better, and go through it all until people are as happy as possible on every side.
But we have to understand not everybody's going to be happy. I mean, that's just life. But at the same time, I think that we need to I think we can make a lot of people happy. I mean, nobody's trying to prevent business in the city.
My goal is always to make everyone happy. Sometimes I fail, but I try.
So then, is that all for the departmental report or for the development administrative report?
I'm sorry?
Were you finished with your report?
I put in a couple of items on there. I know we're start rushing for time. I did want to mention that following the special meeting, we did get the tax exemption ordinance for the homestead. We sent over that meeting because I had to have it opening of business the following day. With the Texas Department of Emergency Management, the funds related to the American Rescue Plan, we have opened the process with them of applying for those funds. Those are funds approved by the federal government for various layers of government. For us, it's for what's been approved for cities. And I'm going back and forth with them one layer at a time, trying to get that open in the process. For the city of Montgomery, that's approximately, the last year I saw approximately $336,000 in 2 payments across 2021 and 2022 that is designed to be used within certain categories, primarily infrastructure improvements in water and wastewater. There are some other categories. We don't have that money now. We'll have it soon. I've instructed the bookkeeper to segregate that into a separate account because we have to track it. And I envision that when we have our budget hearings, we'll talk about how that funding should be specifically used. I'm expecting more direction from the state, by that as well. That's been slowly coming my way.
Hey, Richard, that homestead exemption, that's what you just mentioned, the 20%? We were talking earlier, is that actually something that residents within the city limits have to actually apply for? Is it separate, or is that automatically going to be taken care of?
But if you own a home that is in the city and is homesteaded, so you do have to apply to be homesteaded.
Right.
But that's not limited to just this item, that's any homestead in the county. You own the house, that's your residence, so you file the homestead, then you get the homestead exemption for every layer. So the answer is, yes, you have to apply for it, but not specifically that one. If you're already homestead property, it gets picked up.
I had a bunch of questions too this week, so just for clarification's sake, the city tax rate for every homeowner is 2.4%. So $2.40 of every $100 valuation you pay in property taxes. $2 of that goes to the county and 40 cents comes to the city. That's the ad valorem tax. So what we did was take a 20% or an 8 cent per $100 valuation discount on your property taxes. So it doesn't mean if you have $260 or more, you get the rate drop. No matter what value is on your property, you get an 8 cent per $100 valuation discount based upon that 20%. So for those that didn't understand that, I hope that clarifies some. It's pennies, but it matters.
Yeah.
Thank you. Several of you, I think 4 of the council are attending the new elected officials training that's coming up. Do you have questions about what you should or shouldn't talk about related to the Open Meetings Act? Well, if you're at a meeting like that, I'd certainly recommend touching base with the city attorney before you leave this meeting. I think most of you have already had some education on that. You probably understand that. Later this week, we're sending emails out to mayor and council related to, we talked sometime back after the election, looking forward this summer to scheduling, retreat and planning sessions with city council. I'm looking at getting that on schedule, so we'll send information out to try to coordinate that. With regards to the development report, let's speed this up in the interest of time. We're seeing residential and commercial construction across multiple parts of the city. With regards to one I would want to hear about, the pre-construction meeting was held today with TxDOT on the 149 right turn lane coming from the south headed to the east. Something that has been, over 2.5 years in the making. Don't even know when to start. But so, construction should be later this year. I think it starts mid to late September. So that will, become a reality.
Did they give you a time frame on that? Because it's starting, it's right with school. Is this going to be 5 months or 5 weeks?
Okay, I'm going to touch on that in my report.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Coming attractions.
It's a busy intersection.
Yeah. And on the minimum wage standards we discussed, we're soon to begin work with Caleb in Alan Petra's office on that. He was enthusiastic about working with us on that. He has a couple of priorities he's clearing off of his plate right now, and then we will be coming back to that. So that will be coming back to council in the future as well. Do you have any questions related from the administrators and development report there? Otherwise, we can move on to the next one on the agenda.
You have TxDOT on here for the 105 access that we talked about last time. I guess for the first time, sometimes I'm a little dense, but I just clicked and realized that this entire construction piece goes from 2854 to 45. So all of our comprehensive planning shows this beautiful green space in the middle of 105, right through Brookshire Brothers, Hodgepodge Lodge, all of that with these Texas flags everywhere. So will that be our build-a-foot as far as the city, or are we working with them to extend that green space through the city all the way through? I mean, what does that look like money-wise? I didn't realize, I thought it was coming all the way through to 149 and it's not.
The engineers that we've got for the comprehensive plan have got a great relationship with TxDOT, and they're getting their approvals and they're working on it.
Okay.
So, yeah. Short answer, it's a matter of communication.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But you're
And we're
right. You're starting point, yes, from 2054 east all the way back to 35. Yes, what we discussed here was only about the part of Montgomery. It goes through Conroe all the way.
I just don't want to spend a year and a half on the construction on 105 from 2854 to 45, and then all of a sudden, the city decided we're going to now work on this. And we're spent 3.5 years in construction land for our residents.
TxDOT's got a lot on their plate. They also have future plans. They also have future plans from this side behind us over here past this bridge to the county of widening that. So.
Okay.
And sidewalks.
So it's improvements on 105 to the east of you and to the west of you. Mike McElroy is out tonight. I couldn't take his report, which just briefly reply on a couple of minor items. They replaced the volleyball net in Cedar Brook Park. They did repairs to the crane cabin and roof leak at Fernland Park. It is the same one that they did log repairs on on the north side to about a year ago. And so, yeah, they're just hard to maintain all those older buildings. Fernland docents reported 680 visitors and 81 tours for the month, so they were visiting the historical buildings. They had the quarterly heavy trash event. We had paid for a third dumpster as a spoon, so thank you for twisting the arm a little bit. Getting that covered, that was over $500.
Yeah, it's good.
Value there. And Public Works helped with the setup for the movies at the community center. So if you have specific questions, if I don't know them, I'll be happy to get with you and get you those answers.
All right, the next up is the police report. Chief Solomon.
Chief Mayor Council, if you have a report, if you have any questions, there are a couple training points that I'd like to talk about. I spent last month about a week with about 90 chiefs in the United States today. One of the things that we discussed more than anything else was probably distracted driving, and we talked about the road rage shootings. About every 2.5 minutes, accidents caused by distracted driving. That correlates with the every 18 minutes in the United States where we have road rage. That road rage came to Montgomery last Thursday. We had a road rage shooting here at 105 and 149. So what we've done, we've started sending our officers to distracted driving training, and what that will do will teach them how to look for those types of things. Because over and over and over again, I don't know, I guess the world's just got to get out of hand. We've got people are tense, and so we're going to try to combat that. So we sent our first 2 officers, and we also start sending our officers to child safety classes, where we're talking about having training, putting kids in the seat belts and putting them to it, and those child safety seats are a problem. So many people put those kids in there and do an accident, they get shot. So we're doing some different things in some training, where we're trying to come back to distracted driving. If anybody sees that, we would love a phone call, because the one we had the other day started way back in Magnolia. It didn't come to head till it got here in town. So,
Is that 911 or is that the non-emergency number? What
it's
number?
911.
Lots of big folks have questions.
Somebody
That's who to call.
somebody.
I'm just saying, you told me to set the, it's amazing, I get called. And you guys, I'm like, so is it 911 or is it the non-emergency? And so it's crazy.
We elected Shell all the way back to the community center. And so any of those things we definitely need. Also, our community emergency response team, they're now in their 3rd or 4th week. We've got another 5 weeks to go. This is going to be a really good team when it comes time for emergency. And we're in the hurricane season now, so that's going to be a good deal. Anybody have any questions?
I noticed our DWIs are still high 2 months in a row. Is it just that we're like specifically teed in looking for them? Because I'm like, this is 19 in 2 months in a 4.5 square mile town.
Yeah, we're always looking for DWIs. I mean, you're talking about a major highway like 105. People leave bars, they get off 105, they leave functions, they get back on 105, and they're intoxicated. And that's one of the things also that comes with distracted driving. But now distracted driving has become, there are more accidents doing distracted driving than are alcohol. But yes, that will probably
continue.
We can't say that it's not going to go up or down. We will always be out there watching. We have 2 guys that are actually pretty good DWI specialists. So.
And we're not just ticketing and releasing, we're arresting and sending them to jail.
You go all the way to jail.
Making sure.
Chief, I want to ask, I know you guys have looked at a few different facilities, and so we didn't mention that if you do have to arrest someone and take them all the way to jail, which is common now, right? I mean, it's, have we continue to look for maybe some different facilities here that we might be able to do to upgrade our department size, or?
Even if it comes to that, as a city, we can really only become a whole cell for Class C misdemeanors. So anything above that has to go to the county anyway. It's always good to have a holding facility while that person's being booked in.
Sure.
So that way you've got eyes on the person, and you're also secure.
What do we do with them now?
Right now, what we do with them is we take them already.
Small ones.
And it can take up to 4 hours. I've been there for 4 hours, so it can take an hour.
So misdemeanor would take 4 hours off the street to go process
Take
it.
an officer off the street.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, it depends on, I mean, there was domestic violence.
We actually try and work that. If you got an officer who's got an arrest, if the other officer comes, starts to do his stuff, starts to get the car ready, prepared to go, while that officer goes, to the county.
Meanwhile, the rest of the town can go home on a
No, there's officers. Used to when I came on.
Here, and being transferred.
So are we actively searching or looking for a way to have some sort of detaining center here in town?
We like
Yeah.
There's 50 cells at the community center.
A $3 padlock, done.
Thank you, Chief, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Court report, Kimberly Duckett.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The court report for the month of June, we have 123 citations, and the revenue for June was $35,692.30. We have tried, we're starting out different techniques for our warrants. Officer was on to an off-route day with a nice warrant. We were able to catch the person, run it home, and we have warrants in our city and 2 other counties as well. So kudos to my warrant officer and my staff.
That's good.
Any questions?
Great job, as always, thank you. Okay, utility report.
During the last month, we had 46 new permits that were issued. We're up to 888 total active accounts on the utility. That includes residential and commercial all over the city. That is a number that is just continuing to increase, and looking at the development of the city, it is just going to continue to increase for the foreseeable future. Due to more rain through the month, water users even are down on almost all of the city water accounts.
I think it's interesting how many flags were sold. Do we have something going on that?
That's always up and down. I know I had one call from someone who was a person who was interested in purchasing several flags. I think she was looking at like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a group. Sometimes they just seem to come in waves.
Well, we sell them for $5 a piece, and we made $337. I'm like,
It was also July 4th.
yeah.
All the parade, patriotism.
And it's both Texas and American flags.
Yeah.
And the reason is, you said they're normally $5, but if they buy 2, they get $9. So they're not always a multiple of 5s and 0s. So. Yeah, but it's like there's 2 big boxes that are in there, and it's like, and they seem to get no attention for a while, and then there's a group of people who wants them. So it is remembered by people, and the demand is there. It just seems to ebb and flow.
And it's out on the city sign and in the water bill every month too. So we do a great job of putting it out there.
Thank you.
Hey, Richard, just for clarification for me, for the, well, 2 things. Seeing the sign permit, $50, that reminded me that we were going to talk about looking at the ordinances and updating them for the signs around town. Is that something that you're still actively working on to bring to us?
It's something Dave is working with Caleb on.
Okay.
They've got like 6 or 7 things that they are trying to work on currently right now. So they're working on making progress with all of them, but it slows them all down.
I have to ask, I see the MEDC goat mascot suit for $250.
That's a $250 donation from a company to go towards the purchase. These are all income items that you see.
Yeah.
You know, like for instance, the concrete goat statue, that $1,400 is people pay the city $1,400, so we could get them one of those goats.
Is that how much a goat is? $1,400?
No, I think that's 5 or 6 of them there.
So we made $1,400 off that.
They're between $300 or $400 and the rest came to.
Right. Cool.
And our staff isn't the one doing the painting, we can pick them up painted or unpainted. So yes, the city actually makes a bit of money on that.
Okay.
So thank you for pointing that out.
Okay,
If you have no more questions, we can pass it to the mic.
All right, we're up. All right, Michael.
Thank you, Mayor. We have your chief operations report. We'll go to page 3. We have a number of alerts this month. Again, the majority of them are copper related, which we have been in touch with the energy rep. We've actually given them a raise. So I hope to have more details next month, but I will keep you all updated on that. So other than that, there's only two real issues this month. On the June 9th, we have lift station 3 high runtime. We have a number I guess you say a slug of debris came through there because we had to pull the pumps multiple times. We would pull it, put it back down, and it would clog back up. So we were able to get the debris out of there after pulling it numerous times.
Can
And
you
at the
tell
very
me-
bottom,
Can you tell me where that lift station is located?
the lift station 3 is
Station
right
3.
across 149 from the bus bar.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And then on the very bottom of the page, June 15th, at lift station 2, during one of the storms, we had a tree branch fall on the incoming power line. So we had to get that replaced, the power line, and once the tree hit, it would burn it up. So we were able to run off a generator power until that was done. So we didn't really have any issues there as far as service to the city, but we were able to get that fixed the same day. Page 4 is your wastewater plant flow detail. Flow for the month was 7,622,000 gallons. Daily peak flow was on May 25th at 534,000 gallons. And your average daily flow is 245,900 gallons, 61% of your permitted capacity. Page 5 has your discharge limitations and your effluent monitoring report. All samples were in compliance for the month of June, and we recorded another large one, 10.75 inches of rain. Page 6, we have your water report. We pumped a total of 9,476,000 gallons at a flushing of 178,000 gallons, and we sold 8,966,000 gallons of rain, so 96% accountability. You're healthy on your permit, but just to let you know, this time last year, you're about 10 million gallons ahead of where you were last year. Being that it's wet weather, you probably would have been a lot further had we not had all that rain. At the bottom right of the page, we have your connection count based on your vacuum beacon system. And page 7 and 8 are some of the little charts for your review.
Why are we 10,000 gallons ahead?
10 million gallons.
10 million gallons, sorry.
That would be gross.
Okay, so it is just due to the growth.
Yes, ma'am.
For a growth and variation in weather to some degree, we're probably into our 5th straight that year on average, something toward the 5th, 3rd year. And it's like, well, you'll see a significant increase when we finally have a drought here. And, you know,
I don't know that I've seen the permitted amount, it's 61%. I don't know that I've seen it that high.
It's usually at 60. It's in the 60.
Yeah, we've been, we actually, some years ago, we went over permits.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, we had the permit increased, but just with the growth, I mean, if you, I went and took a look at what we did last year, and we still look to be healthy by the time the year rolls around, but just to get a little food there.
And the solution to this is to finish the loop, correct? That's the only real solution?
Well, I mean, we just have to increase our permits eventually.
Okay. What number do we need to get to do that?
I would have to.
Like at 80?
Defer to Catherine.
Is there a law or legal reason?
I don't think there's a legal, but you don't.
Not necessarily. So the way it works is it's based on growth projections, and so we keep the log of the city's growth projections based up. I think currently we have it out to 2027. And again, no projections, but it's a way for us to monitor how much growth we anticipate coming to the city so we can get ahead of any permit renewal requests.
Okay.
To expand on why the percentage remaining is so high. Recently, with Lone Star rule changes, the city was able to go back to their pre-GRP permitted amount, which gave us a significantly larger permit on our Jasper wells, which is well 2 and 3, which is why we have so much permit remaining.
Okay.
It was a change in Lone Star rules.
Okay, thank you.
Could you explain the beacon thing to me real quick? I have no idea what you're talking about just now.
Okay, so that's going to be your smart meter system.
Okay.
So we base this count off of the amount of smart meters you have in the system. So every residence has a smart meter, every business has a smart meter. So that's how we base our total connection count.
Okay.
Maybe another reminder in the water bill too is the ion water. There's a lot of new residents and a lot of people don't even know that we offer that. And it's it's a good service.
Definitely is.
So, yeah. So, yeah.
Catherine, do you know the Lone Star Groundwater Conservancy, is that based upon that lawsuit that they just lost? Is that why they increased those back up?
I don't know necessarily why. I know the timing was similar.
Yeah, because they just...
I couldn't tell you exactly if it was tied to it, but I do know that some of the rules regarding groundwater reduction changed.
Changed, yeah.
And we were allowed to go back to our 2015 permitted amount if we wanted. And so we went ahead and elected to take it before the rules changed again. It's not available anymore.
Yeah. Are we able to lock that in, do you know? I mean, like, what are we...
I mean, we're permitted for it now. And
Yeah.
so whenever permit renewal time comes around, we'll see what Lone Star has to offer and we'll take what we can get from the city.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Michael. The financial report, Anthony Lasky.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pretty smooth report for this month of June. On page number 3 of your report, your account balances, you have a total of 7 months reserved in your operating fund or your general fund, a little over 2 years reserved in your EDC fund, and then just a little under a year's reserved in your utility fund. Going through your budget, starting on page 11 of our report, 154 of yours. We have a total of $209,000 that you collected for sales tax for the month of June. The rest of it went NBC. I did find out July's number is just a little under $289,000 that you collected. For the month of June revenues, you were roughly 32% over on revenues, and you've actually exceeded budget for your revenues of about 4% for as of the month of June. And then for your expenditures, you were 3% under for the month, and so far 83% spent total. And then the only other thing I have is you have successful refunding that took place in June as well too, which paid off your 2012 series bonds, both of them. So, and of course on the last page of your report shows your 2021 refunding that basically replaced those, and it lowered your bond and it lowered your debt payments. And the next one being due on September 1st.
So I noticed that we put the goats, and I know you're gonna get mad about the goat stuff. I noticed we put it under utility and general fund stuff. Is there a way to reallocate that under like the hotel tax? Because the hotel tax can be spent on marketing for the city, and that's what I feel like it is. So why, and we're sitting on $16,000 there. Why pull it from the general fund when we have something that we're not pulling from at all, and we haven't been for a long time?
Are you talking about what's on page 131?
158, line item 16590.H is 339 for the GOAT expenses. The income you listed on general fund.
Okay, so you're asking about the expense portion, not the...
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check with the ability to... I think it might be chargeable to something under that fund. There's a lot of limits to that. I'd rather verify that, but it's certainly something we could consider doing.
I looked it up, and it basically was like anything that leads people to...
The only thing I would have to be careful for, and I'll work with the attorney on this, is, you know, we may have to also insert the income there too, because I don't want it to look like the impression of we're trying to launder money out of the hotel fund just for the general fund. But I'm sure that as long as the expenses are paid, I'm sure there's an appropriate way to do it.
Right, and I'm like, that hotel occupancy tax falls under tourism. Marketing is basically the general idea of it. So even if we dumped extra money there, then it would seem like the improvements that we're talking about for Cedar Break or golf cart crossings or things like that could then come out of that hotel and occupancy tax. So a way to fund these things would be to take that $16,000 that's sitting there month over month, year over year in building and use it versus sitting on it for tourism. And then also are the line items at 56000.B on page 176 for city capital projects and 56000.C future downtown development for a total of $360,000. Are they included in the capital projects bank account listed on page 145, which has a total set aside for capital projects at $1.45 million? So basically, is that $360,000 included in the $1.45 million, or are we just double putting it on here?
What was the first page again?
176, line item 56,000.B and 56,000.C.
176 on the report, sir?
Yes, sir.
Oh, 316 up there, okay.
Page 176, so that's MEDC, those funds don't normally cross through to the city. Are you talking about the portion that they pledged to cover the city capital costs?
I'm just trying to clarify if we're adding the 1.45 million for capital projects to the 360,000 set aside there. Is it a combined capital project budget of 1.8 million, or is it two separate items that we're both calling capital improvements?
I think what you're asking is or the answer to what you're asking is the amount that's in the capital projects for MEDC gets added to the city capital project.
So it's plus.
Plus, yeah. So when you look over on the capital projects page for the city, that just reflects what's in there right now to be spent. So when MEDC transferred 160,000 several months ago, or I guess a month or so ago for the 105 water line project, that went into the city capital.
And I'm just clarifying because we mentioned last Wednesday about the 20%, the concern for infrastructure. So I was trying to look at what we have already set aside for infrastructure on capital projects, and that is basically 1.8 million that we're sitting on right now for infrastructure. So I'm just trying to confirm that we are still solidly sitting strong for infrastructure even with a 20%.
The projects fund does have a lot of money now. A lot of that money is already pledged to the work
that's still pending, yes.
The contract is pending, so it's not all available, but we're on track with it.
Okay. And then on page 162, line item 43947.A. Sorry, I made notes. We're way over budget there.
What was the line item?
It's 43947.A. It's a transfer from utility. So we're $243,286 over, meaning that we have a huge surplus there. Did something happen?
That we collected more money?
43947.A.
Or item 15 on the upper right-hand corner.
That's how much has been transferred so far to this year. There's still roughly about 300 or so thousand that's still budgeted for that year. It probably just needs to be spread out a little bit, just because it comes in, there's some that might come in one month, there may not be that comes in other months. It just needs to be kind of more spread out, I should say. But there's still roughly, about a little less than 300,000 is still left in that budget item.
And on 166, all the bond stuff that we're seeing there, it's almost $5.1 million. Is that all because the refinancing of that bond?
Yes.
That's the amount of money we're saving? Or?
No, it was about 700,000 or so.
Okay.
That's just how much the bond issue was.
Okay.
Yeah, 700,000 is over the life.
Oh, right. 2024 or 2027, something like that.
Just making sure I connected dimes together.
But yeah, that's just an offset for the most part on that page.
Okay. And 172, the grant checking account. So what falls under a grant? Because this one's been sitting for a long time with no movement. I know it's $5,000, but who can apply for a grant? Is this part of the home grant? Because I thought home grant had a separate bank account, but this is a checking account balance all by itself.
I don't think there hasn't been much, I don't think there's been any activity.
There's no activity on it.
My page is balanced, so I don't go to.
It just tells you the balance. There's no activity on it, and there hasn't been activity on it in months, maybe years, I don't know.
I think that My initial thought on that is that's just the placeholder waiting for more activity for the next grant. But Anthony and I will take a look at that tomorrow and we can get back to you on that.
Okay. Would that be where the sidewalk stuff that Dave's working on falls under and we balance check and go with all that projects? Or no, this is...
Well, that is actually not part of this fiscal year, so that would be a future fiscal year item.
Right.
More than likely, we would create a special line item for that when we do have it in the next budget.
And 182, ordinary income and expenses, there's a total of $24,000 in charges for service over the already $285,000 with 3 months still remaining for this year. That adds on for the $225,000 to $310,000. How do we rationalize this amount of surplus over and over again and again? I'm just curious.
Okay, what's the line item?
You want a line item? It's 24,000 is the line item number, charges for service.
The top line.
The top line. Well, it's that entire category. When you add it up on the total lines at the bottom, you can see that we're making money for service over and over again. So we're at $285,000 that we're making in our pockets as a city for
when
service.
you see there's a surplus in the utility fund, the surplus is then turned around to the capital projects fund where it pays for the projects such as water line construction, water tank replacement, future water wells and things like that.
Okay.
So,
And I saw an MISD loan payment. Is this based upon that we borrowed money for them for the Catahoula? What do we owe MISD for that we paid $67,000?
we don't owe MISD anything that I'm aware of.
It is a loan payment
Are you talking
on,
about the loan payment where the city?
It's on page 149.
From the NEDC for the purchase of the land?
oh, so it's $63,052.03. So that's the land purchase.
That's where the city borrowed the money from the NEDC at the 1 year term.
They paid
Okay.
the money.
And in that particular case, the city was paying less interest than it would pay.
Oh, yeah.
And the NEDC is making more interest than it would make in any place.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. And item 16, city engineer's report. Catherine.
Good evening again. I'm going to hit the highlights of my report, but please stop me if you have any questions on anything that I don't supposed to cover. So item number 1 on page 1, which is page 186 of your packet, downtown water line replacement. So a little update from what is in your packet. The contractor was working on 4 underneath 149 today. And so once that is complete, we'll be able to put the line, do bacteriological testing, put the line in service, and then at that point, it'll be cleanup work. So this is the last major component for the actual water line itself. The rest will be cleanup after this is complete. Item number 2 is water plant number 3 improvements. Another update from what was written in our report is that we have received the notice to proceed from the Water Development Board, and that has been relayed back to Joe Carter as well. And so the contractor should be, we will be receiving a construction schedule from the contractor, and we'll keep you updated as we hear more. I'm going to combine items number 4 and 5, the 1097 speed study and the traffic signal warrant analysis. Both of these studies were performed by Joe Carter, and they are complete. We're reviewing the results of the study and to give more information at your August 10th meeting. Most of page number 2 is plan reviews, plot reviews. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer, but nothing terribly out of the ordinary on there. And then going on to page 3, the general ongoing activities. We are working on your permit renewal, and so that is, again, your wastewater treatment plant permit will expire June 1st of next year. So this is something that we start a year in advance, and we're going on forward with that process. Item number 5 listed here is your northbound right turn lane. So I attended the pre-construction meeting at TxDOT's Conroe office this morning for this project. The project they are scheduled to begin construction on August 2nd. They are expected to have 53 working days. Is what was included in the pre-construction meeting. They expect barricades to be up for about 4 months.
53 working days, and we've spent, I don't know, 300,000 days to get to or it feels like 300,000 days to get to a turn lane there, but 53 working days. Isn't that crazy? Sorry, it's not your fault. I'm just astonished that it feels like it's taken.
And another thing that Mike and I discussed outside of the meeting with TechStop was, as part of the project, we asked them to take another look at signal timing at that intersection.
Please.
To see if there's anything that can be done. Part of the project, they'll be constructing a new signal box, and they said that that should give more capacity to the traffic signals and allow for longer grace. They are going to take another look at it as part of the project. So we've got it on their radar, and they're aware of that there are issues there.
At one point, there was a discussion of a new light that you could actually program from here, so they could have cameras and see during school hours, obviously leave it longer, green, or turn it red when necessary, go back to different hours and days and times. Is that, whatever happened to that?
I'm not sure. I would have to follow up on that and let you know. I do not know where that conversation ended up.
Okay.
The great thing is if they're going to do a traffic study for the signal cameras, they're going to be doing it during back to school.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, no, we don't take anything outside, sorry.
I got a question. Out at my neighborhood of Hills and Towns Creek, we still haven't found a way to make water run uphill. Consequently,
A lift station.
yeah, well, I mean, so at Carol's Son, across behind me, that'll be the fourth section of massive loads of concrete that's pulled back out to try to make the water go where it's supposed to be. Plus I got on the other side from where the other tons of concrete was taken out. So I guess my question is this a surveying problem? Is this a developer problem? Common sense? What is it? Because it's costly to somebody, and I'm curious as to who.
So those changes are being funded by the developer. It was issues that came up during the warranty period, which was 1 year from time the project was complete. And so those issues were identified during the maintenance period, and so we made the developer aware, and they are funding the repairs for that.
So
Is
are
that
you?
Christina or Stylecraft, sorry?
Yeah, Stylecraft.
Okay. Stylecraft.
And so on my same street where they did the original 3 sections, right across from there, there's terrible pulling. So this is still part of phase 1, 2, and 3. So is that all going to be taken care of, I would guess?
That's my understanding. If it was identified within the maintenance period, then it's going to be taken care of. The contractor is aware of it, we're keeping in really close contact.
Have y'all seen any like that before? Because this is pretty astounding.
It's happened in smaller places, in other areas of the city, things that came up either during or after the maintenance period. This isn't the only place this happened. This is a more significant area. But again, the developer is funding it. It's not coming out of the city's pocket.
Okay.
I had a question underneath the GLO projects, B number 3. What's the deal with the MLK Drive and talk about the sewer situation there? What's happening there? I just haven't been paying attention. I didn't realize there was an issue.
So the project is to do an analysis of the sanitary sewer system out there that involves putting a camera into the sewer lines itself. We receive the videos, we review the videos and look for noted issues, if there's sags or major cracks. In other places I've seen, even starting a large hole in the pipe, it lets us know exactly what the condition of those sewer pipes is, and then it also includes rehabilitation. So anywhere from point repairs to a cured-in-place pipe lining, which will line the entirety of the pipe, and it will cure to essentially be the hardness of a PVC pipe is. And so what that will end up doing is it saves the city in repair costs. And repair is, of course, cheaper than an emergency repair, but it also improves the sewer pipe, so flow, et cetera, can move a little smoother.
So is there an issue out there now? Is that why we're doing this, or?
The reason for it, so the GLO is based on a couple of things. It's based on need and income level. And so but because of the age of this area, we know that this is one of the original parts of the city. And so we're not aware of when the last time these pipes were inspected is. And so we want to take a look. It's just a good cursory maintenance project. Okay. And this is one of the first places we identified.
Mr. Are they still working on those apartments on Claire Morgan?
I believe they are.
I know I hadn't seen anybody. Are they planning on building some more in that area?
I don't know. We've talked to a couple of developers on Pleasant Morgan, and I'm not sure. We haven't heard any firm plans of what they're wanting to do out there. I've heard maybe a storage facility or
Townhomes, that was supposed to be in townhomes there with Yeah.
It's that pin.
And are
It's going
we-
back and biting us.
Are we considering any kind of like camera sewage optics for Jenny Stewart's place out there? Since that keeps coming up as an issue, are we?
We are. So
It seems like that might solve some.
The staff is putting together a plan for annual televising of different areas of the city, starting with the higher priority, the things that are older, more well established, or areas with issues. And so we're working with city staff to get a plan together and then go ahead and go forward with doing a little bit every year, and then over time we'll make our way through the whole city. We want to be mindful of need. There's no need to televise a brand new sanitary sewer line. We want to give it time, but also be mindful of budget as well.
Is that because that's one of the lowest points behind there?
It's not necessarily due to elevation. I think maybe topography. A lot of it is age of the line. And then the last item that I wanted to talk about was the city engineer transition, which is the very last item. We received a hard drive with a significant amount of documents from Jonathan Carter, like the city's documents. We're reviewing those, and we'll be working with staff and Jonathan Carter to see if there's anything missing to request that from them as well. So transition is going well on all sides.
It's my understanding that they've been pretty forthcoming to provide what's necessary for the most part. Is that still true?
That is correct. That is correct. It's been a very smooth transition. Haven't ran into any hiccups to date.
How many contracts are Jones and Carter still working on? Because they're still doing work for us as well, right?
So they are working on, they're going to finish off the downtown water line replacement, the water plant number 3 improvements. They were pre-selected for the water development boards, the water development board projects, so they will stay on those projects to completion. They're also working on the GLO projects for the same reason. Jones and Carter was explicitly selected.
Now going forward, we're still using them for different things as well, right?
I'm sorry?
Going forward, we're still going to use Jones and Carter for some other things as well, right?
It's a specific necessity.
Okay.
And you are still using Jones and Carter for GIS services currently as well.
Okay.
And with the speed of the traffic signal study, that what Captain mentioned before, wrapping up, they were the ones on that, so they're still at that full wrap up.
I was asking, because remember during those discussions, we were talking about not having all the eggs in one basket.
Yes.
It sounds like we're transferring everything over to you, and then Jones and Carter not having anything to do anymore. So making sure that.
Some of the projects that she mentioned that they're working on are a couple of years, so.
Okay.
So we're definitely going to be seeing Jones and Carter around for a while, even if nothing else was added.
I did read somewhere on TML's website that they do GIS services for free. Have we looked into this?
Jonathan Carter?
TML.
Oh, excuse me.
Texas Municipal League.
I personally have not looked into it, but that's something that we can certainly look into.
Haven't seen anything like that, or we have to look into it.
I haven't heard of the GIS services, but again, we'll have to look into it. And that's all that I have.
Well, you have somebody, I know Chris is not here, so you have somebody with you going to introduce her to the.
I do. So I want to introduce you guys. This is Sam Randolph. She is a new addition to our team. She's with us previously, Jones Carter, and she is helping out with the city of Montgomery as well. Since Chris wasn't able to attend tonight, I thought it was the perfect time for Sam to come and get a chance to meet everyone.
An Aggie.
She's an Aggie.
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to add, you brought up the good news about Texas Twisted Shakes. When did that get submitted, and how long did it take to get approved?
The application was received on Wednesday following the last council meeting and was approved on Friday. My understanding it was picked up later that day.
Could we clarify, Richard, a couple of us, I think, had questions about how the approval process happened, or they can open and work for the next 6 months and everything's good to go and we're hippy-skippy, right?
Well, they need to maintain, their health certification with the county. That is not in our control. They need to operate properly.
But it was explained to me that the special use permit was overlooked based upon the fact that we had several other instances where we'd never implied that before. And so to insist it now would be arbitrary. So it was overlooked and the permit was granted on Friday because of previous existence.
It was approved because that is the way we had processed others, and it was not the time to start doing something different. So we will make sure as we modify the ordinance that is understood by all.
And just to clarify, we place.
Order, excuse me, this is our meeting. So,
So the permit got approved for 6 months
Yes,
for both of the trailers in the historic district?
applicants can apply for either a 30-day or a 6-month permit. I believe those were both applied for 6-month permits.
Yes.
So they were approved as such.
So I'll make a motion that we approve departmental reports with one modification, that we insist on a workshop to be included for the food truck ordinance.
Second.
it is moved and seconded that we accept the departmental reports as presented, with one additional item to be of record, that we insist a workshop to be added for the food truck ordinance in the city administrator's report. This motion is debatable, amendable, requires majority vote. It is open for discussion. All those in favor of accepting the departmental reports as presented with the additional insisting the workshop to be added around the ordinance for food truck permits, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will accept departmental reports as presented with the additional insisting a workshop to be added around the food truck ordinance. Next item of business on your agenda is the executive session. We have nothing at this time. Council inquiry is next.
Richard, I'm also hearing a lot of rumors around we don't have an ordinance for VRBOs or private rentals within the city, so I know that this is going to be another issue coming to a head. What are we doing to be proactive for some kind of a short-term rental, that VRBO, Airbnb?
So when you say we don't have an ordinance around those, what kind of ordinance are you referring to?
Hotel tax.
They are subject to the hotel tax.
That's what the owner has to.
Per the ordinance that
Yeah,
exists.
the owner, it's up to the owner, correct?
The owner is obligated under the ordinance to collect those or remit them to the city. I spoke earlier this week to, I think it was earlier this week, to a consultant that works in that, it's a company that has done work for the cities in the area, and they're sending me a proposal to look at and to review. I'm hopeful to get that soon and then refer that to Alan with any questions I have. So they would work on a commission basis.
At this time, Anthony, I believe the Caroline House is the only rental that we're getting any monies from.
That is correct.
Okay. So I know of a few others in town, so we need to find out where those,
And I think
where that money's going, if it's even being
I think
paid.
a consultant doing that can do that properly.
That would be good.
Probably better than we can.
Okay.
I will say that if you are seeing, issues, a lot of cities have been developing, permitting regulations for the short-term rentals. It's a somewhat controversial issue right now because it's, the property rights groups against, the protection of your neighbors. But there are cities that have permitting processes and have, some basic, requirements for life safety, inspections, and some things like that.
So I know that we have Hodgepodge Lodge has got 3 rooms, and I don't think that we've received anybody from that, and I've talked to Jeff about it, and he's given us the name, but it's never shown up on the list, so that's something that we need to find out. He says he's paying, but that's something we need to find out the name and give it to the Texas Comptroller. Is that who we work with?
Well, that's what we work with
For
sales tax.
Right.
But maybe Jeff has it registered to his personal address and he's right outside the city limits.
No,
No, it has it registered to his business. I don't know.
We've been working on it for months. Trying to figure it out. Okay.
I've also heard of prospective person looking to do a tiny home community that they could then rent out. Would they be subject to lot width variances that we have for developers? What does that, where do we stand on anything like that?
Like the Larry Jacobs type deal, I think.
They should contact the city and talk to us about development. A lot of people don't even know exactly where the city boundaries begin and end. So we talked to people who, thought their land was in the city, and it turns out it wasn't. We've had to follow up with people who thought they were not in the city, found out they were. The city does have a minimum lot variance. It also, has zoning. So it's like when Larry Jacobs, approached us with regards to his project, the special use permit was appropriate for that because of the zoning in the east. So, if they were wanting to use it as a health hotel or short-term rental type property, that is different than it being a permanent residential community. So, for something like that, I highly encourage them, come speak to the city if there's variances or exceptions or anything that's needed, or maybe they need a different location, or just even if they're looking for an area, we can tell them what areas would or wouldn't be easier or more difficult for them to work that out.
So this lot in question is the one behind Jim's?
No.
There's a little lot back there. It looks like a place that I was told for possibly tiny homes. It looks-
Yeah, that one. You got a special use permit, and
There
they're
is.
going to be rented out.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be like little villas.
Yeah.
Is that the Larry Jacobs one that you're talking about?
Yeah.
That reminds me, though, you and I spoke about a month ago about this, I think maybe more, Dave, I'm not sure. One of the things that last year, remember, we approved the special use permit with, Larry was making sure that drainage and all that stuff isn't an issue. Of course, I was personally concerned as being the homeowner right behind it, what's going to happen whenever he clears all that land out. And as we've unfortunately seen, he's clearing up the land out and the project has come to a halt. So we talked about this, I think Larry, I'm not sure who's going to be responsible at the end of the day, but now that all that big runway that I was worried about being cleared out, well, when we get a hard rain, guess whose garage floods? It's mine. All the way to the back of the wall in the garage. And that was an issue before with the Champagnes who lived there previous to my wife and I buying that house. It was fixed, but after that land was cleared, guess what? It's back to flooding in the garage. So, on behalf of as a homeowner as well, I kind of want to know where the responsibility is going to lie. I spoke to Larry about that, and he's, more than welcome. He's offered to make some changes and maybe bring it back on and build a bigger barn, but that hasn't happened yet. So, as someone who has all their stuff on bricks in the garage right now, I'd like to appeal to the city if we could talk about that again, or approach Larry to.
Well, we can reach back to you, outside of here, as the owner of the place there, and then take that conversation up where it needs to go with the other landlord.
Okay. And as the owner of our new home that's being built right now in Hills of Town Creek, I also would appreciate, so you said it's definitely the builder who's responsible for all that water that's sitting in front of my now future home?
Trying to take care of you, Kevin.
I know. All I thought, the water just sits there and it doesn't go anywhere at all.
Just confirm you're in section 3.
What section am I in? Your neighbor.
What street did you hire?
It's the top, that's why I moved to the very top of Brock's Lane. Yeah. The flooding. And now I'm driving through a flood to get out of there.
The ponding out there is the same part that I was talking about earlier.
They dug up the other side of the street and replaced it, now it's all on my side of the street.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll take another look afterwards, make sure that the work was done sufficiently.
Well, I mentioned to the builder and they said, I don't know. So they didn't seem very.
I mean, the guys that you see out in the field aren't necessarily the ones that are going to know about that. But if you have issues with it, let us know, and we'll reach out to the right folks to make sure that.
Well, so far my apartment's not flooding, so water's staying away from there, so.
Whose responsibility for this flooding issue? Is it the city's responsibility, or is it the engineer's responsibility to hold Stylecraft accountable?
So I would say it's been a joint effort between the city and us to stay in contact with Stylecraft. We are holding a maintenance bond on them, so there's a little bit of financial motivation for them to get it done and get it done right. So once the work is completed, we'll do what we call a warranty inspection, make sure the work was completed sufficiently. And if it was, then we will release the maintenance bond.
It just sounds like there's a whole lot of flooding, and it sounds like it's just moving around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, concrete's not getting cheaper, so how much of a maintenance bond are we holding? I mean, does it behoove them to just walk away from it? Because concrete's expensive.
Yes.
Sue them then.
It is expensive. The maintenance bond is sufficient though. It's for
Excellent.
the construction bond. It's a significant maintenance bond.
Okay. Sorry, cost of things have gone
significantly.
Yeah.
Well, if they were to walk away from it, they're walking away from it pretty significantly.
Okay.
And so how do you determine that the flooding will be mitigated? If it's continuing to move, right?
It's a matter of double checking stabilization underneath, double checking slopes, making installed properly for specification.
Sorry, the water's just following me around town, that's all I can say.
And will Larry have to come back and get a special permit for the driveway since he's using crushed gravel over there and not asphalt? Is he licensed, is he zoned residential or commercial?
The zoning there, the zoning there is why he got the special use permit.
It was zoned residential.
Right.
And now it's
So he'd be
commercial.
using it for a non-residential purpose.
Yeah.
So that is the reason for the special use permit. is the zoning.
The special use permit is for which issue? The tiny home so they get the lot width variance, or the driveway so they can do crushed gravel, or both?
Well, his permanent, his permanent driveway, I believe, was intended to be, a more permanent driveway. What you see there is his temporary construction work.
Okay.
So we can revisit with him to see if he's going to, if he can update us on that.
I just wasn't sure if it was already included or we were going to see that in the future, so.
Well, if he has abandoned the idea of those rentals, I'd love to talk to him about
We can put it on.
potential parking or other ideas.
So we can,
Great.
if he's not going to move forward with that, we can certainly broach that conversation with him for additional parks in the area.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
I motion to adjourn.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adjourn the meeting. This motion is favorable, amendable, or cause majority vote. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries. It is 8:16, and we will officially adjourn. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the evening.
You ain't going nowhere. I am not leaving.